What's good, y'all? Welcome back to Rick Knows Hoops. I'm your host, Tyreek. I know there's no video for this one, but I got to give y'all something because the NBA Finals is here, and I'm here to talk about Game 1, man. The Phoenix Suns getting the win at home against the Milwaukee Bucks to open up the series. Chris Paul having another phenomenal game. Devin Booker showed out. DeAndre Ayton performing well. But I still think this is going to be a very good, very long series, too. So, let's talk about it, man. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new. It's a place where we talk about NBA basketball. So if you love hoops, this is the place for you. And now we're talking about finals basketball, man. Very exciting game. I think it gave us a very good one to open the series up. But the Phoenix Suns were able to get this win. And believe it or not, I got notes for this episode, man, because there was some stuff I definitely wanted to talk about. And we're going to start with the Phoenix Suns backcourt. Game started off first half. Devin Booker really got it going. Chris Paul was slowly getting into the game. I believe he had 11 points in the second quarter, which is all of his points in the first half. But Devin Booker was controlling the pace of the game early on. And, us basketball fanatics, we know that Coach Budenholzer for the Milwaukee Bucks does not make a lot of adjustments. But one of the adjustments he did make at the end of the Atlanta Hawks series after Giannis went down with his injury was he started to just switch everything, switch the pick and rolls instead of playing the drop coverage. And it worked very well to their favor. But in this game, Devin Booker, Chris Paul were dominating the switches. I mean, we're going to get to Brook Lopez. We're going to get to Bobby Portis. But they were dominating those guys on the switches, really taking advantage of the switches, which you love to see from an elite backcourt like Devin Booker and Chris Paul. And that's really how the offense was flowing in the first half for the Phoenix Suns. And another big factor was just DeAndre Ayton controlling the paint, which he's done most of this postseason, no matter who he's went up against, no matter if it was Anthony Davis, if it was Nikola Jokic, if it was against the Clippers when they tried to run small ball against him, or even when Zubac was in the lineup playing well. And in this game with Giannis in there too, Giannis was a late add to the rotation. We know he's been dealing with the injury, but he was officially added to the starting lineup right before the game started. Shout out to Giannis for being able to give it a go. We're going to get to his play in a minute. But DeAndre Ayton was still able to really dominate both ends of the floor in the painted area. You got to give a big shout out to him. His first finals game. Chris Paul, his first finals game. This was everybody on the court's first finals game except for Jay Crowder. That was a crazy stat that I did not know until they announced it right before the game. But the Phoenix Suns came out. They played a very good game. In the second half, they really took off. Chris Paul had another big-time third quarter, really performing well in that period. I believe he finished the game with 32 points. Very commanding game from Chris Paul. You love to see that. Devin Booker, of course, he had another phenomenal game. Even though he didn't shoot the ball as great in the second half, but he really got the offense going in the first half like we mentioned. And then we mentioned about DeAndre Ayton. But let's talk about Mikal Bridges because on my podcast, The Fast Break with Blaze Review, we talked about, what it would take for this Phoenix Suns, the role players outside of Ayton, Booker, and Chris Paul. And we talked a lot about Jay Crowder. We talked a lot about Mikal Bridges. Like, we need a game from one or both of those guys, for the Suns to really reach their full capacity. And in this game, it was not Jay Crowder. He had the big game in Game 6 against the Clippers. But this was finally, I would call this a Mikal Bridges game. I mean, I believe he had 14 points in the game, which is not like jumping off the page or anything. But compared to what he's been doing the rest of the postseason, getting 14 points from Mikal Bridges is very big time, I would say. Very impressive the way he performed today. He seemed a lot more confident just with his offense than he had been, the previous 3 rounds of the postseason. And, big shout out to Mikal for stepping up in Game 1. If you get 14 points from Mikal Bridges, it's very tough to beat this Phoenix Suns team, especially when Chris Paul was playing the way that he played, when Devin Booker played the way he played. DeAndre Ayton is dominating the painted area. This is a very tough team to beat when you get 14 points from Mikal Bridges. And then off the bench, Cam Johnson, 10 points, played amazing defense, even a great defense on Giannis at times. If you get 10 points for Cam Johnson, he's been very consistent in this postseason. This Suns team, once again, just very tough to beat. And then you got Campaign coming in, being able to get to the basket at any point that he wants to. That's one thing I really notice about Campaign. He gets to the bucket anytime he wants. So shout out to him. The Cams for coming off the bench, playing very well. And we mentioned Jay Crowder. He put up a stinker. I think he was like 0 for 8 shooting last time I had checked. But even despite that, him not doing a thing offensively, defensively, he was there. He guarded Giannis very well. He was guarding, the switches. He was guarding Brook Lopez early on, did a pretty decent job, even though Brook Lopez did have a very good first half. But Jay Crowder did his thing on the defensive side, and you expect him to have a game or two where he just hits 2 or 3 threes, or maybe he has a 4 or 5 3-pointer game, which will bode well for the Phoenix Suns in this series. But let's get to the Bucks side, because that was a lot of Suns talk. That was a lot of compliments for the Phoenix Suns. So let's get to the Bucks side, man. As we mentioned, Giannis was a late add to the lineup before the game. We know he's been dealing with the hyperextended knee. Thankfully, there was no ligament damage. I, for one, was very surprised to see him in the lineup tonight. I didn't think only after 6 days after hurting his knee he would be able to play tonight, but he did. And early on, he looked very aggressive. He looked pretty solid. He was moving well. But you could just tell as the game went on, his conditioning wasn't there, which you kind of expect. After not playing basketball for a whole week, you kind of do expect his condition not to be 100%. And then we saw he just didn't seem like himself, man. He didn't seem like he was able to be in attack mode the full, 48 minutes of the game. And I think it was starting to wear on him. But I don't think the knee was bothering him as much. I think it was more so just conditioning. And I think going into the game, so I think Giannis will look a lot better. So I'm not really too worried about him. The good sign for the Bucks, Chris Middleton came to play. Chris Middleton had a very big game. He came ready for this one. And we like to see that. He played very poor to begin the conference final series against the Hawks, but he finished that series strongly. Same thing kind of happened against the Nets. Chris Middleton gets better really as the postseason gone along, and to see that he gets off to a very good start in game one is a very good sign. Now, let's get to the negatives. We gotta get to the negatives. It just seemed like the Bucks didn't know what they wanted to do defensively. Like we said, Coach Budenholzer did make the adjustments. He even adjusted in game, deciding to go back to the drop coverage. But Chris Paul, Devin Booker just continued to tear the pick and roll game up. I mean, these are two of the most elite guards coming off of ball screens that we have in the league, and the Bucks just look lost out there. And as great as Brook Lopez was offensively, shout out to Brook Lopez for still being a force even this deep into his career after remodeling his game into a stretch big, but still showing that he could post up, because he was taking advantage of, smaller guys. Like when they would have Jay Crowder or Mikal Bridges on him in the first half, he was taking advantage of them down low in the paint, and he was hitting the 3-point shot too. But I don't know how playable he's going to be if the Suns are rolling like this, because he can't guard Chris Paul and Devin Booker on switches. He struggles just guarding them in the pick and roll in general. And then if you go drop coverage, you're giving easy looks to two of the best mid-range shooters we have in the NBA. And that also goes for Bobby Portis. I mean, they both really struggled. I mean, you're asking them a lot to guard two all-NBA caliber guards in pick and rolls, switches, for a full game, a full series. That's asking your bigs a lot. But I would like to see what the adjustment is. Maybe do you try and blitz the ball screens to get the ball out of Chris Paul's hands, to get the ball out of Devin Booker's hands, and make other guys like Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges, guys like that, Cam Johnson, make those guys beat you. Torrey Craig, shout out to Torrey Craig. I didn't give him shout out, but I like when Torrey Craig gets minutes. But I want to see what adjustments Coach Budenholzer makes. But it's going to be important for him not to wait too long to make these adjustments, because, it's the NBA Finals. You got to come with your adjustments by game 2. You can't play around. You don't want to go down 2-0. You really don't want to go down 2-0. Even though you're going home, you don't want to go down 2-0 to this Suns team that is as hungry as a team that you have played this entire postseason. So the adjustment, if is Brook Lopez going to be playable, is Bobby Portis going to be playable? The team looked a lot better when Giannis was at the 5, and they had Pat Connaughton in there with Drew Holiday, who we're going to get to, Chris Middleton, and I believe Brent Forbes was getting a lot of run down the stretch too. The team looked a lot better with that lineup on the floor, but you can't obviously play that lineup the full game. And so we're going to have to see what Coach Budenholzer decides to do with his adjustments, which is something that he's not really known for, but try to make some in this game. And the Suns ate it up. Shout out to Monty Williams for sticking to the game plan, attacking those bigs in the pick and roll. They were doing it all night long. It seemed like that was the point of emphasis to begin the game. And we mentioned Drew Holiday. He has to be better. He's got to be better. I mean, I guess it's a good sign for the Bucks that clearly Giannis is not 100%, but you were still in this game. This is only a 7-point game, I think, early into the fourth quarter. The Suns just had an answer for every run that the Bucks had. You get a very good game from Chris Middleton, but Drew Holiday has to be better. I mean, he does a lot of little things. He rebounds the ball well for a guard. He's the best playmaker on the floor for the Bucks. I think he had 9 assists in this game, but you expect him to at least shoot the ball better. I mean, 4 for 13 is not going to get it done. I know he has a lot on his plate. He's asked to defend either Chris Paul or Devin Booker pretty much at all times. He's got to be better. Has to be a lot better, man. I'm expecting him to improve because he finished off that conference final series very well. So I'm expecting him to be a lot better than what he was in that previous game. But I think it's important to know it's just one game. It's just one game. It's the beginning of this series, the beginning of the conference finals. You don't want to put too much into this game, but you do want to, if you're the Bucks, know what you did wrong, know what you can improve on, make the right adjustments. Hopefully Giannis looks closer to 100% by game 2. And continue to just, do what you did well in this game. Chris Middleton running the offense through him and, on high pick and roll situations worked very well. He was getting to his spots, hitting his shots. That's something that you can improve on. You can work with Brook Lopez a little more on the offensive side, but you have to be able to adjust to, defending the pick and rolls against D-Book and CP3. You got to really work on that stuff. You got to know just how to, attack those pick and rolls defensively. I think that's just the major key for the Bucks heading into game 2. Because one thing about the Suns' backcourt, if they get to those spots, I mean, they're going to more than likely not hit those shots. They're going to shoot a very good percentage. You might want to look and see what the Clippers did, because the Clippers were very effective in guarding, those ball screens. But I don't think the Bucks have the same perimeter defenders that the Clippers have. Even though they didn't have Kawhi in that series, I still think guys like Patrick Beverley, Terrence Mann, Paul George are still very elite defenders. And I mean, you have Drew Holiday. Chris Middleton's a okay defender. Giannis is not really known for his perimeter defense. Neither is, PJ Tucker gives a very good defensive effort on the perimeter too. But, it's asking a lot. I mean, I'm sure that there are adjustments to be made, but it's just a matter of if Coach Budenholzer and his staff can find those adjustments. But like we said, it's just one game. Shout out to Chris Paul. Shout out to D-Book, DeAndre Ayton, and the rest of those guys. The Mikal Bridges game, which, I've been waiting for in this postseason. I like the Cam Johnson minutes off the bench. I like when Torrey Craig gets extended minutes. I was mentioning that in the last series. I think Torrey Craig deserves more minutes, and he got more minutes tonight. Very effective on the defensive side, which is where he makes his money. He makes hustle plays all the time. And a very good win for the Phoenix Suns. They did what they had to do. They won game 1 on their home floor. See what game 2 holds for them. But appreciate y'all for tuning in. I'm sorry that there's no video for this one. It's just audio quality. But, hey, I'm going to be back soon. If y'all didn't see my short video earlier, I mentioned that I just moved and stuff. So I've been trying to get everything set up. So my recording setup is not 100% done. So it will be soon. But until then, if this is how I have to do it, I guess I'm going to have to do it because people have been asking where the video's been. So, yeah, I can't miss any finals games for sure because I missed enough of the conference finals. I really only covered one series. But I'm going to be here for every finals game. You can book that. Every finals game, I'm going to be here. So, appreciate y'all for tuning in. Be sure to leave a like again. Subscribe if you are new. Share the video. Helps the channel grow a lot. And we have been growing a lot. So, I appreciate y'all for all the support that you have been giving. And I'm going to be back next time with another one, y'all.